Has Prince Harry's decision to be a no-show ahead of his own court hearing immensely damaging the case that he brought against the media? Hello everyone, welcome to Royal News Network. My name is Brittany, and today we are talking about Prince Harry's no-show in court. He was supposed to be there today. He had been told by the judge specifically to be there, but the prince, he's too entitled for that. He needs his beauty rest, so he decided to cite jet lag and not attend, which surprised the judge. I feel like probably angered him and made the whole court feel like their time is being wasted to cater to the ego of Prince Harry. And as a guy who says he's doing all this, bringing all these court cases against the media, particularly to help change the media, make it better, can you think of nothing more entirely selfish, self-centered than to make the court wait an entire day because you are too privileged, too entitled, too special to be at court when you're told to be at court? So we're going to discuss a little bit of this today, but if you guys haven't been here to Royal News Network before, like I said, my name is Brittany, and on this channel I provide compelling royal commentary on the latest news like Prince Harry and a little bit of gossip as well. I also have an upcoming trip to Germany and Austria. This will be an amazing and incredible time in the German Alps, hanging out in Bavaria in the Castle Neuschwanstein and Hohenschwangau, and then we also are going across to Salzburg to see where they film The Sound of Music and see some of the homes associated with that, before finally landing in Vienna and taking a bit of a tour of the history of the Habsburgs. So I only have a couple of spots left to confirm that trip, so if you guys are interested, feel free to sign up. I'm so excited, and it's just going to be an amazing time to not only learn a bit about history of this region, which has a very, very rich royal history, but also talk about the inane and insane decisions of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, who can never, ever seem to get it right. But of course, when you pull stunts like what we'll talk about today, you should not be surprised that nobody is falling for it anymore. But like I said, we just need a couple more to confirm by June 7th. So again, if you guys are interested, feel free to check out the link down below. I also have a weekly newsletter, Royal Wire, and I have a fashion channel, which, guys, oh my gosh. So I did a video on the Jordanian royal wedding, just thinking it would do okay, kind of like everything. I even might have thought it went low. No. I was completely wrong. It's currently sitting at 2.5 million views. 2.5 million views. I have not had a video yet that's hit 1 million views. And to have one that hits 2.5, it was on like the Google or YouTube trending page. It's been absolutely insane. So I encourage you to head over there and check that out if you haven't already. Goodness gracious me. That was, I feel like any video I'm going to do next is going to be incredibly lame against Paris, because that one did so well. But anyways, guys, I'm so excited. That's just a huge coup. So that's really exciting. So go ahead and check that out there. And then we also have the precious announcement that Princess Eugenie has given birth on May 30th to her second son, Ernst. So it's Ernst George Ronnie Brooksbank. So he weighed 7 pounds and 1 ounce, and he was born on May 30th. And I've got to say, I think it depends on when the Daily Mail got their pictures. But, you know, like the time of day, but I pretty much have secured some of the final pictures of them as a family of 3. Actually, I do have the final picture of them as a family of 3 as a news outlet. I happened to see we were at Kensington Palace. I was actually leading a tour group in the UK. They had a fabulous time. And so a helicopter was landing behind Kensington Palace. I ran over there with a couple others to check out and see who it was. We couldn't see who was in the helicopter, but I saw a couple of people off in the corner, so I took a couple of pictures. And wouldn't you know it, was Eugenie, her son August, and husband Jack. So I got some of the final pictures of them as a family of 3. I actually did get the final, at least public pictures of them as a family of 3. So I'm a little excited about that, but I am also super stoked for Eugenie. This will be so fun. So she already has a son, August, and her sister, Beatrice, has a daughter, Sienna. So it'll be interesting to see if Beatrice has another child as well. If she has another girl or a boy, I think that would be so fun. And I'm planning on doing a whole video advocating for Charles to make Beatrice a working royal, because I think she deserves it. I think she's done amazing work for the British monarchy, and I think she would be an incredible voice for it, especially as, I mean, I know some people are like, you know, who cares? But the loss of Harry and Meghan, it does hurt a bit, because the average age of the British royals right now is pretty high. It's pretty high. So having a couple younger people does tend to bring it down, which I think would be a good thing. However, Harry's court case proves that maybe Harry and Meghan are better left on the outside and not the inside. So Prince Harry started off his court case strong by not showing up, even though he was supposed to. He may not have started testifying today, although that was actually somewhat the plan, and would go into the next day. But Harry decided, you know what? It's going to be too hard. I had to take a really long flight. Life is too difficult. I did sit in first class, so I'm just going to hang out at my hotel. My security, it's too frustrating. It's too difficult because I'm so important. I'm so special. But don't worry, I'm really doing all this for you, Joe Public. Yeah. Do I believe that? Absolutely not. Prince Harry is the most selfish, entitled, self-centered person on the planet right now, claiming that he's doing all this to benefit the public. So what is this case about? Harry is, once again, this is part of the Mirror group of newspapers, and he's suing them over, again, this phone hacking scandal that happened way back in the early 2000s. And he's even bringing up some things from Princess Diana days, which would be 25 plus years ago at this point, because she died in 1997. So this is a practice that's not even done anymore. But Harry wants to sue over this because he's looking to change the system. And of course, you can only do that through lawsuits. You can't do that through other methods. He wants to basically browbeat the press into giving them positive stories about Meghan Markle. And so you look at this whole thing and go, okay, so what is behind all of this? Because this whole court case looks a little bit ridiculous, especially when Harry doesn't think it's important enough to even show up on the first day. Now, granted, I will say I've traveled internationally 3 times this year. If you are in coach, it is a rough ride. I've done premium, first, and coach this year in terms of flying internationally. Coach was somewhat awful. It was not the worst thing in the world, but it is pretty miserable in some ways. I don't sleep well on planes. If you're somebody who can sleep, oh, you're golden, but I can't sleep on an airplane. I did first, which was awesome. It was really, really good. Even though I don't think I still slept very much, I got to actually fully recline, which was amazing. It was amazing to lie flat. And then I also had a premium, which isn't too bad because you get a little bit more recline, you get a footrest, but still I have trouble with noise. I have trouble with not being able to lay down and light and everything. I'm a really, really light sleeper. So for me, coach feels like an element of torture. But we know Harry isn't flying coach. He's too good for that. So he will be flying probably first. And all first class flights anymore, especially those to Europe, mostly do have fully reclining seats. So these are beds basically that come out. Now, are they super comfortable beds? No. But are they better than coach? Yes. And so Harry should have slept pretty well. And when you look at an international flight, the best thing you can do to get on the time zone is to stay up until at least, I would say, 7 or 8 o'clock in the evening. Don't go to bed at 3 or even, let's say, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, or perhaps even take a nap, because if you're not careful, you'll get off pretty quickly, because the best thing to do is to stay up and get on your new time zone. Going to bed too early or too late can actually kind of mess you up. So the easiest thing to do, the simplest thing to do, is get on the new time zone. So there's really no excuse for Harry to have missed his court case, because he did travel out on Sunday. Now, granted, Sunday evening, he probably had a first class flight. It was late, so he did sleep for a period of time, but he had to attend his daughter's birthday. Now, I think 2 things can be true here at the same time. That it's good for him to attend the birthday parties of his children, but it's also true that Lilibet is too and doesn't know exactly what a birthday is yet. Yes, she has somewhat of an understanding, but she's also 2. She is a toddler. You know what you can do? You can celebrate it on Saturday. She won't give a whoop whatsoever. So I think Harry's excuse here of a toddler's birthday just doesn't fly. And some other people agree. Listen to this bit from a GB News journalist.
Is Harry really so thick that he thinks that it's a good idea to anger the judge in his phone hacking trial? Well, apparently so. But he pulled out at the last minute because he wanted to attend his daughter's birthday party. I mean, he only had a year to plan for it. She's only 2 as well, so she wouldn't really have known it if it was a day earlier. What a muppet. How on earth can Harry expect to be taken seriously if he's late for his own court date? But Harry is so arrogant and entitled that he thinks he can actually call a court case and then not show up because it doesn't work around his life. But for me, this last-minute no-show, supposedly due to his daughter's birthday, strongly implies that there are issues going on at home, and it might not just be the judge kicking him out on the curb soon.
Yeah, so I think that's that's incredibly true. Harry here is citing a toddler's birthday for not going to his own court case. That just doesn't fly in any stretch of the imagination. There's really no excuse for that. You could have planned it so that perhaps the whole family went over to the UK and celebrated it in the UK like they did last year. They could make it a tradition. They could have celebrated it on Saturday and been perfectly fine. There's no reason Harry had to be there on her birthday. It's so much like the silly excuse for getting back for Archie's birthday during the coronation. Well, I have to get back because I need to be there on my son's birthday. Because, you know, he's 4, and I'm sure he would have probably much rather actually spent it at the coronation, seeing all the excitement and everything surrounding it, rather than doing the same thing he does every day in Montecito, which is apparently an incredibly boring town. So Harry doesn't have a ton of excuses here, but he did manage to tick off the judge. So this is some of what we got from Twitter and Matt Wilkinson. I was trying to read it, but the grammar is kind of so bad, I think, because he was tweeting so quickly. So I really encourage you to read through the Twitter thread. But basically, Prince Harry was told to show up. At earlier direction, he was told, be here today. All the witnesses need to be at court today. Even if witness testimony doesn't start today, you need to be there. What does Harry do? He doesn't show up, which leaves the judge feeling diplomatically surprised. And then we are also told that Harry apparently just only wanted to testify one day, which Andrew Green, who is the lawyer for the Mirror Group, was like, what? I was planning on cross-examining him for a day and a half. So what do you mean I only get half a day, because he has to give his initial testimony, and I only get a short period of time, especially because he was supposed to be available on Monday, today. So now apparently that will drag into Wednesday. You got to know, if Harry's miffed, that all of a sudden he's being told, yes, that he must stand for trial and actually answer questions he doesn't want to answer. I don't think he's told no very much by his team, and so I think that'll come back to bite him here a bit. So this is the excuse, though, that the Harry's lawyers gave the court. They said he is in a different category due to his travel and security arrangements. It was never anticipated that the opening would not take the whole day. Well, that's wrong. If the judge told him he needed to be there, then he needed to be there. And Harry's not in a separate class, really. He's a celebrity now. He is a celebrity. He's not royalty. There's nothing. He needs a bit of security, sure. But at the same time, he doesn't need this full apparatus he's demanding all the time, because honestly, he's not that important anymore to the British system. So people mostly just like, what are you talking about? So Justice Fancourt replied that he anticipated that opening submissions would finish before the end of the day, meaning Harry would be required to give evidence, which is why I directed that the first witness should be available. Harry is about the first and only witness in this case, although I really wish they would bring out Chelsea Davy here. And then Harry's lawyers also went over time. They had 3 hours for opening submissions, and what did they do? They got to the end, or basically time, and the judge told them, well, you need to finish. And they're like, well, we have 25 more minutes. And the judge's like, too bad. And that's, I think, incredibly smart. If you've ever given testimony or anything, I've helped some people with congressional testimony. You want to make sure you're on time, because time in these things does matter. Now, granted, a lot of times those people are getting 2 to 5 minutes. But even if you're given 3 hours, you need to make sure you can submit your case in 3 hours. If you can't, if you're going over by 25 minutes, you got something to do. You have something to make up. And so because of that, because you didn't plan well, and perhaps there were a lot of interruptions and things I don't understand about the British court. But if it's just that they were allowed to basically give their case for 3 hours and failed to do so within that allotted time, that's on them. So he also goes on to say that opening submissions have finished and the first witness is being called, which potentially would have been time the Duke of Sussex was sworn into oath, but now it will be tomorrow morning. Matt said, rather worryingly, and hopefully will be resolved before tomorrow, there is no microphone in the witness box, meaning journalists cannot hear the witnesses' answers. And that's an issue here. There needs to be an element of transparency here, because that's what Harry is to a certain extent demanding. He wants change. He wants results. And what does he do? He doesn't let people listen in on the court cases, and he gets mad if people report on them. I'm sure there's immense frustration in whatever hotel room Harry is in right now that people ran with this story. But you gave them this story, you dummy. Like, it's hard not to tell him. Like, I kept thinking today, oh man, Harry reminds me of the Scarecrow from The Wizard of Oz.
I haven't got a brain, only straw.
If only he could think through his decisions. If only he wasn't so married to the narcissism he and Meghan have created together, this toxic narcissistic bubble that they've created, that they could actually maybe win something, or they could put themselves in the good graces of the public. But Harry and Meghan can't do that. They're too self-obsessed to do so. And so looking at this whole case, I think there's kind of three big things to cover here, and three big things to point out generally. The first is that Harry has a stunning level of hubris, and he is completely and utterly confused, I think, that anybody would be upset that he wasn't there today. And so not attending court was an incredibly stupid decision. He should have been there. He should have been there ready to go, ready to answer questions, and he should have left a day earlier, just even to make sure he doesn't get a flight delay. I had a flight canceled once to the UK and I arrived 24 hours later. It sucked. I mean, at least that would be a halfway decent excuse from Harry. But he needs to think about this. This court date has been set for a while. The judge is there, all the solicitors are there, everybody's ready to go. But the guy actually bringing the freaking case, that's not a good look. If this is your case, if you're dedicated to it, if you feel like this case could potentially change the world, then you need to actually be there and to do the case, not be hanging out in Montecito and not making it all about your daughter's birthday. Yes, that is important, of course, but you know what? Soldiers, police officers, surgeons, doctors, nurses, they all miss their kid's birthday because sometimes they have to do something bigger than themselves. But Harry and Meghan, again, they can't think of anybody but themselves. It's all about themselves and their lives and their children. They can't think anything beyond that. So how in the world is this man going to change anything if he can't think of more than himself and his children? I think also when you look at his hubris, you get the feeling that Harry really believes that because he is royal, like in his mind, he still should be treated, and he still is just like he was when he was a working member of the royal family. So he expects that deference. But that deference should not exist here in this case. Justice is blind. If he wants a time when justice is not blind and that the royals could do whatever they want, you would need a time machine to go back and do that. Or there are a couple places, like you could try to take over North Korea if you want everybody to jump when you call, and if you want people to have your picture in their room. It's Harry's belief that he is still as royal as he was is that I think truly damaging here. He needs to recognize he left the royal family. Yes, it was not in his desired way. He did not get the desired results, but that was his decision. He has to live with that. His wife has to live with that. I know that's really, really hard for Meghan Markle. I'm sure she gives him BS and trouble every day over the fact that people don't give them the deference they believe they are deserved. But you know what? That deference also becomes with a level of respect. And respect runs both ways. And Harry here, I don't think showed respect to any aspect of the court, the judges, the lawyers, the people on both sides of the aisle by not showing up to a case he initiated. This wasn't something the Daily Mirror was like, oh yeah, we really need to bring this case against ourselves and we can tell Harry to do that. No. They're like, okay, you brought this case. You need to actually be here to fight for your case. You just can't expect the lawyers to do it for you. And this level of deference I feel like he thinks he deserves is immensely damaging to his case because the judge needs to look at the evidence, not Harry's feelings. Facts matter here in this instance, not his feelings, not his thoughts, not his crazy delusions and accusations. No, this is a court case based on facts, not fantasy. And Harry, I don't think, is still in the realm of reality anymore. And I think there's also something incredibly troubling about a prince who says, I'm not going to stand for anything longer than a day of cross-examination. It's like, well, but that's not your decision. That's not your decision. The court gets to decide that. The judge, you can't say, well, I'm only going to do a certain amount of testimony for a case I myself brought. You opened yourself up to criticism. You opened yourself up to cross-examination. And guess what? You're going to have to deal with that. And that's going to be uncomfortable. But that's what you chose. You decided you wanted to go down this path. And you know what? This path has consequences. There are realities to this decision that Harry, again, is refusing by any stretch of the imagination to acknowledge, and it can only damage him in the long run. And the other big thing to consider here is that this case will change absolutely nothing. Most of what Harry is suing over happened 10 to 20, 25, 30 years ago. It's not happening anymore. So why in the world is he bringing this case in an attempt to change things that have already changed? That's the definition of pointless. It's a pointless suicide mission. In addition, it opens himself up to more criticism, the thing he seems desperate to avoid, because now he'll be under and cross-examined by a barrister. And this guy is probably not going to give him the easy ride. He doesn't care that you're a royal, Harry. He has clients to consider. And though your lawyers have coddled you, I'm sure, quite a bit, I think you'll be in for a rude awakening when you realize that this guy is not treating you like Oprah or Anderson Cooper or Tom Bradby or anybody else, that he's aggressively questioning you. He's pushing you to your limits to get you to crack. And given that Harry didn't show up today, I don't have strong feelings that he's been properly prepared for this because, again, of his own hubris and probably his own feeling that he doesn't need to worry about any of this because it's going to be fine. Nobody's going to question him. But I think he's going to find that this lawyer for the Mirror Group is not going to be kind to him. He's going to be respectful, but he's going to go after him like a defense attorney should, and it'll be rough. There's a reason they don't put the accused on the stand the vast majority of the time, because most of them, they either break or they just don't do well under cross-examination. Because if you're trying to manipulate people, if you're trying to keep up with your lies or inconsistencies, anything like that, a defense lawyer's dream is to catch you in a mistake. And I'm sure he'll catch Harry in many. And again, Harry only has himself to blame for opening up this line of inquiry. And like I said, none of this will change anything. The Mail is still going to go after him. Everybody's still going to harp on Meghan Markle. Nothing about this case is going to change. And most importantly, I think this is critical for Harry's psychology in this instance, it's not going to bring his mother back. Harry, your mother has passed. She's been gone a long time, bud. This is not going to fix it. This is not going to be your revenge. You're not even getting revenge against people who are you probably claim or think were involved in her death. She called the press a lot on herself in order to get attention, to steal attention away from Charles, other royals. Diana played the media game, but got frustrated when she would call the media and they wouldn't leave her alone. And I think this is what Harry's critically missing here, is that this is a misguided attempt to save his mother and by extension Meghan Markle, because in their deluded minds, Meghan is Diana. You even saw this in the taxi ride incident. They were clearly trying to draw parallels to Diana, and it just didn't work because the parallels didn't exist. There's no tunnel. Everybody was going 3 miles an hour, so nobody was going 60, and nobody, guess what, was drinking behind the wheel of that car, which is the true reason for that crash, is that the driver was drunk and he was listening to, I'm sure, pressure from Diana and Dodi going, well, go faster, and he was doing as they told him, but he was impaired. He wasn't using his best judgment. And Diana and Dodi were also not using their best judgment by not wearing seatbelts. If they had worn seatbelts, it's not entirely sure, but they could have potentially survived. The only survivor of that crash was wearing a seatbelt. So Harry here just comes across as a deluded yet very, very entitled, narcissistic little boy, desperate to punish the people who he thinks killed his mother. Unfortunately, the truth, as always, is more complicated than that. Diana was more complicated than this fantasy image Harry has created in his own head. And she deserves better than what Harry is doing to her, which is making her a martyr, making her a martyr to his and Meghan's causes, and using Meghan as a prop to try to recreate instances of the Diana paparazzi chase. There was an interesting video by Camilla Tominley talking about how Harry and Meghan seem to want the press and yet don't want the press, particularly Harry, and that Meghan obviously wants fame and fortune, and yet at the same time Harry doesn't seem to want that. So are they going in separate directions? I think even the indication that Meghan wasn't secure enough to let Harry leave early to go to this court case, an indication of a marriage that's in trouble, because a wife who understands that her husband had this other obligation, and again, they're trying to save the world, guys. This is going to save the world. Would understand that, yes, he may have to leave and may not be there exactly on his daughter's birthday, but that doesn't mean he doesn't love her, and that doesn't mean they can't celebrate on a different day. They could have easily celebrated this on Saturday. But I feel like Harry is beholden to Meghan all the time. He must be there. He can't spend a second of time away from her more than he has to, which doesn't indicate a healthy relationship. Yet at the same time, we also hear that he goes to hotel rooms a lot. She goes to hotel rooms a lot now. She's trying to party with different people and nobody wants to party with her. We get this indication of a marriage where people are going into entirely different directions, and that ensuring, demanding that Harry is there at a toddler's birthday party, even though he has a very important court case that could perhaps save the world, is a clear indication that Harry and Meghan are not out to save anyone but themselves and their public image. So guys, let me know what you think of this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.